I lost my job for telling the truth, and what happened next made my boss wish he never fired me. My name is Sage, and I thought I knew what loyalty meant. I thought I understood the rules of the game. But sometimes, the game changes when you're not looking, and suddenly you're the one holding all the cards. Let me tell you about the day that changed my life forever. But first, let me tell you why what comes next will blow your mind. You see, when someone tries to destroy you for doing the right thing, the universe has a funny way of fighting back. And sometimes that fight comes in the form of phone calls that make grown men cry and beg for forgiveness. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. 3 months ago, I was just another worker bee at Meridian Tech Solutions, a big company that makes software for hospitals. I'd been there for 5 years, working my way up from intern to senior project manager. I loved my job, I loved my team, and I especially loved my boss, Thaddeus Morrison. Thaddeus was everything I wanted to be: smart, confident, successful. He wore expensive suits and drove a car that cost more than most people's houses. Everyone respected him. Everyone wanted to be like him, including me. He took me under his wing when I was just a scared college graduate who didn't know a database from a spreadsheet. He taught me everything: how to talk to clients, how to manage teams, how to make the impossible happen. "Sage," he would say, "you've got something special. You don't just work hard, you work smart. And you're honest. In this business, that's rare." I believed him. I trusted him. I would have walked through fire for that man. The project that changed everything was called Medicore. It was our biggest contract ever, a system that would help doctors track patient information across 3 different hospital networks. We're talking about thousands of patients, life or death information, the works. The deadline was tight. 6 months to build something that should have taken a year. But Thaddeus promised the client we could do it. He promised them the moon and the stars. "We've got this, Sage," he told me in his corner office, looking out at the city skyline. "You're my ace in the hole. I trust you to keep this project on track." I felt 10 feet tall walking out of that office. This was my chance to prove myself, my chance to show everyone what I could do. The team was small but talented. Me, 2 developers named Oakley and Wren, a designer called Lennox, and a quality tester named Indigo. We worked 12-hour days, weekends, holidays. We lived and breathed Medicore. But 3 months in, I started noticing problems. Big problems. The code was full of holes, security gaps that could let hackers steal patient information, data that could get lost or mixed up between different patients, bugs that could make the system crash right when doctors needed it most. I brought these issues to Oakley and Wren first. "We know," Oakley said, rubbing his tired eyes. "But Thaddeus says we don't have time to fix everything. He wants us to focus on making it look good for the demo." "Look good?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This isn't a game. This is people's lives we're talking about. Wren looked around nervously. "Maybe you should talk to Thaddeus. He might listen to you." So I did. I walked into his office with a thick folder full of test results and bug reports. "Thaddeus, we need to talk about Medicore." He looked up from his computer, smiling that charming smile that usually made everything seem okay. "What's on your mind, superstar?" I laid out everything. The security problems, the data issues, the crashes. I showed him charts and graphs and error logs. I explained how these weren't small problems that could be fixed later. They were big, dangerous problems that could hurt people. His smile faded as I talked. By the time I finished, his face was stone cold. "Sage," he said slowly, "I appreciate your thoroughness, but we have a deadline to meet and a client to satisfy. These are minor issues that can be addressed in the next update." Minor issues? I couldn't hide the shock in my voice. "Thaddeus, patient data could be stolen. The system could crash during an emergency. Someone could die because of these bugs." He stood up, walking to his window. For a long moment, he was quiet. Then he turned back to me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating. "Let me explain something to you, Sage. In the real world, perfect is the enemy of good. We deliver what we promised, when we promised it. The client is happy, we get paid, everyone wins. Your job is to make sure that happens, not to create problems where none exist. But the problems do exist, I said, my voice getting stronger. I have proof right here. What you have, he said, walking back to his desk, is a bunch of technical mumbo-jumbo that our client doesn't understand and doesn't care about. They want a working system on time and on budget. That's what we're going to give them. I stared at him. This wasn't the man who had mentored me. This wasn't the man who had told me honesty was rare and valuable. This was someone else entirely. I can't be part of this, I said quietly. Excuse me? I won't put my name on something that could hurt people. I won't lie to the client about what we're delivering. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Thaddeus sat down at his desk and folded his hands. I see, he said. Well, Sage, I'm disappointed. I thought you understood how things work here. I thought you were ready for the big leagues. I am ready, I said. I'm ready to do the right thing. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. The right thing? The right thing is keeping your mouth shut and doing your job. The right thing is not stabbing your team in the back. The right thing is loyalty. Loyalty doesn't mean lying. It does if that's what it takes. I picked up my folder and headed for the door. I'm going to document all of these issues and send them to the client. They have a right to know what they're getting. Sage, his voice stopped me cold. If you do that, you're fired. I turned around slowly. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. Be a team player or find another team. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. Then I guess I'm finding another team. I walked out of his office and straight to my desk. I opened my laptop and started typing the longest, most detailed email of my life. I listed every bug, every security flaw, every problem with the Medicore system. I attached test results, screenshots, error logs, everything. The email was addressed to Patricia Holloway, the head of IT at the hospital network. She needed to know what she was really paying for. Just as I was about to hit send, Thaddeus appeared at my desk. I'm sorry you feel that way, Sage, he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. But if you can't handle the pressure of a high-stakes project, maybe this isn't the right place for you. The pressure isn't the problem, I said, not looking up from my screen. The lying is. Pack your things. Security will escort you out. I looked around the office. My teammates were staring. Some looked shocked. Others looked scared. A few looked angry. But I couldn't tell if they were angry at me or at Thaddeus. I hit send. The email flew out into cyberspace, carrying with it 5 years of my career, my reputation, and my trust in the man I had once admired. But I felt something I hadn't expected. I felt free. Security came and watched me pack my personal items into a cardboard box. Photos of my family, a coffee mug my sister gave me, a little plant that somehow survived 5 years of office air conditioning. As I walked toward the elevator, I heard Thaddeus telling everyone that I had failed to meet the demands of the position and that my negative attitude had become disruptive to team morale. The elevator doors closed, and I was alone with my box and my thoughts. I drove home in a daze. My little apartment felt different somehow, smaller, quieter, more uncertain. I sat on my couch and stared at my phone, wondering if I should call my mom, my sister, my friends. But what would I say? That I got fired for being honest? That I threw away my career for some principle that might not even matter? Maybe Thaddeus was right. Maybe I was just being difficult. Maybe this was how the real world worked, and I was too naive to understand it. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the look in Thaddeus's eyes when he fired me. It wasn't anger or disappointment. It was something worse. It was like he was looking at a stranger. Like the person he had mentored and trusted had suddenly become his enemy. But I had done the right thing. I knew I had, even if it cost me everything. The next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. The number was unfamiliar, but something made me answer it. Is this Sage Williams? The voice was professional, crisp. Yes, this is Sage. This is Patricia Holloway from Metro General Hospital. I received your email about the Medicore project. My stomach dropped. Here it comes, I thought. The lawsuit, the reputation destruction, the end of my career in tech. Ms. Williams, I need to meet with you as soon as possible. Can you come to my office today? I... Yes, of course. But I should probably mention that I'm no longer with Meridian Tech. I was terminated yesterday. There was a pause. I see. Well, that makes this conversation even more important. Can you be here at 2 p.m.? Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Williams? Bring everything you have on this project. Everything. The line went dead. I spent the morning gathering every document, every email, every test result I had saved on my personal drives. I had always been careful to keep copies of my work, not because I planned to betray anyone, but because I was proud of what I did and wanted to learn from it. Now, those files might be the only thing standing between me and complete professional ruin. Walkways. I had never been inside before, but I had driven past it countless times. It was one of the biggest hospitals in the state, serving thousands of patients every day. Patricia Holloway's office was on the 5th floor of the administrative building. Her secretary, a kind-looking woman named Rose, offered me coffee and told me Ms. Holloway would be right with me. I sat in the waiting area, clutching my laptop bag and trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "How's the new job going?" I had told her about the project, but not about getting fired. I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. "Mr. Williams?" I looked up to see a woman in her 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes. She wore a blue blazer and had the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter without thinking about it. "Yes, that's me. I'm Patricia Holloway. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Please come in." Her office was professional but warm, with pictures of her family on the desk and certificates on the walls. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Mr. Williams, I want to start by saying that your email yesterday was very brave. It couldn't have been easy to send." I wasn't sure how to respond to that. "I just thought you should know what you were getting. And I appreciate that more than you know. But I have to ask, why now? Why didn't these concerns come up during our regular progress meetings?" I felt my cheeks burn. "I raised them with the project manager. I was told they would be addressed in future updates." "But you didn't believe that?" "No, ma'am. These aren't the kind of problems you fix later. They're fundamental issues with the system's architecture and security." She leaned forward. "Show me." For the next 2 hours, I walked her through everything. Every bug, every security flaw, every potential failure point. I showed her test results that proved the system could crash under normal hospital loads. I showed her security scans that revealed how easy it would be for hackers to steal patient data. Her face got more serious with each slide. "Mr. Williams," she said when I finished, "do you understand what you're telling me? You're saying that the system we paid $2 million for is essentially worthless?" "Not worthless," I said carefully, "but dangerous. In its current state, it's more likely to cause problems than solve them." She was quiet for a long time, staring at the data on my laptop screen. "I need to make some phone calls," she said finally. "Are you available to stay for a few more hours?" "Yes, of course." "Good. Rose will set you up in one of our conference rooms. I may need you to walk some other people through this information." The next few hours were a blur. I found myself presenting the same information to a parade of people: IT directors, security specialists, even some doctors who would be using the system. Each time the reaction was the same: shock, anger, and gratitude that someone had spoken up. Around 6 p.m., Patricia came back to the conference room where I had been waiting. "Mr. Williams, I have news. We're terminating our contract with Meridian Tech, effective immediately. We're also considering legal action for misrepresentation and fraud." I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. "I'm sorry it came to this." "Don't be sorry. You may have saved lives today. Which brings me to my next question. What are your plans now?" "I'm not sure. I'll start looking for another job, I guess." "What if I told you we might have a position for you here? Leading a team to build a new system, the right way this time?" I stared at her. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. We need someone who understands both the technical requirements and the ethical responsibilities of what we do here. Someone who won't compromise on safety for the sake of a deadline. But I don't have experience running my own team. You have something more important. You have integrity. The rest we can teach." I left the hospital that evening with a job offer, A starting salary that was 30% higher than what I had been making, and a head spinning with possibilities. But the real shock came the next morning. My phone started ringing at 7 a.m. The first call was from Oakley. Sage, thank God you answered. I need to tell you something. Thaddeus called an emergency meeting yesterday after you left. He told everyone that you had stolen company data and sent it to competitors. He said we couldn't trust you and that anyone who talked to you would be fired too. My blood ran cold. He said what? But that's not the worst part. After you sent that email to the hospital, they called our office. They're canceling the contract. They're demanding their money back. And they're talking about suing us. I didn't know what to say. Sage, the whole company is in panic mode. Thaddeus is running around trying to do damage control, but it's not working. And some of us are starting to think you were right about those bugs. The second call came from Ren. Sage, I'm so sorry. I should have backed you up when you tried to fix those problems. I was scared of losing my job, but now I might lose it anyway. The whole Metacore project is falling apart. The third call was from Lennox. Boy, you are not going to believe what's happening here. Thaddeus is losing his mind. He's been in meetings all morning with the executives. Word is, they're not happy about losing the biggest contract in company history. But the fourth call was the one that changed everything. The number was one I recognized. It was from Meridian Tech's main line. But the voice wasn't one I expected. Sage, this is Margaret Aldridge. Margaret Aldridge, the CEO of Meridian Tech Solutions, the woman whose picture hung in the lobby, the woman who built the company from nothing into a multi-million-dollar operation. Ms. Aldridge, hello. I think we need to talk. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. The CEO of Meridian Tech wanted to talk to me. The woman who could make or break careers with a single word. The woman whose company I had just helped destroy. Of course, I managed to say. Can you be at my office in an hour? Yes, ma'am. And Sage, come alone. The line went dead, and I stared at my phone like it might explode. What did she want? Was this about a lawsuit? Was she going to threaten me? Or worse, was she going to try to buy my silence? I drove to Meridian Tech with my stomach in knots. The security guard at the front desk looked surprised to see me. I'm here to see Ms. Aldridge, I told him. He made a phone call, spoke quietly, then hung up with a confused expression. She's expecting you. Top floor. I had never been to the executive floor before. The elevator ride felt like it took forever, and when the doors opened, I stepped into a different world. Everything was glass and marble and expensive art. This wasn't the cramped cubicle farm where I had worked for 5 years. This was where the real decisions got made. Margaret Aldridge's assistant, a polished woman in her 30s, escorted me to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Ms. Aldridge will be right with you, she said, closing the door behind her. I sat at the long conference table, trying not to fidget. Through the glass walls, I could see people in expensive suits walking purposefully down the halls. None of them looked happy. The door opened, and Margaret Aldridge walked in. I had seen her picture 1,000 times, but in person, she was more imposing than I expected. She was in her early 60s, with silver hair pulled back in a perfect bun and eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my car. Sage, she said, sitting across from me. Thank you for coming. Of course. She folded her hands on the table and studied me for a moment. Do you know why I wanted to see you? I assume it's about the Metacore project. It is, but probably not for the reasons you think. She opened a folder and spread some papers on the table. These are the reports from our internal audit of the Metacore system. Reports that were completed 2 weeks ago but never shared with the client. I looked at the papers. They were filled with technical jargon and test results, but the conclusion was clear. The system was dangerously flawed. You knew, I said quietly. We knew. I knew. And I also knew that Thaddeus Morrison was planning to deliver it anyway. My mind reeled. Then why didn't you stop him? Because I wanted to see what you would do. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. I don't understand. Margaret leaned back in her chair. Sage, I've been running this company for 23 years. I've seen a lot of employees come and go. Most of them are good people who do good work. But every now and then, someone special comes along. Someone who doesn't just follow orders, but who has the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. You were testing me? In a way, yes. But the test was real. The dangers were real. And your choice was real. I felt a surge of anger. You put patients at risk just to test me? No, she said firmly. I put a project at risk to find out if you were the person I thought you were. The system was never going to be delivered in its current state, but I needed to know if you would speak up before I intervened. And if I hadn't? Then the system would have been quietly delayed while we fixed the problems, and you would have continued working for Thaddeus Morrison, never knowing that you had failed the most important test of your career. I stared at her. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Your actions said everything I needed to know. She closed the folder. Sage, I have a proposition for you. Ms. Aldridge, I should tell you, I've already accepted another position. She smiled. With Metro General Hospital. Yes, I know. Patricia Holloway is a good friend of mine. She called me this morning to tell me she was stealing my best employee. Your best employee? But I was fired. You were fired by Thaddeus Morrison, not by me. She stood up and walked to the window. Sage, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room. Do you understand? Yes. Thaddeus Morrison has been under investigation for the past 6 months. This isn't the first time he's cut corners on a project. It's just the first time someone had the courage to expose him. My blood went cold. What kind of investigation? Financial irregularities, falsified reports, bribery of client officials to overlook system flaws. She turned back to me. The Medicore project was his last chance to prove he could be trusted. Instead, he proved exactly the opposite. So what happens now? Now, Thaddeus Morrison is terminated, along with anyone else who knew about these problems and chose to stay silent. I thought about my teammates, Oakley, Wren, Lennox, Indigo. They were good people who had been caught in an impossible situation. What about the rest of the team? They were just following orders. The ones who were just following orders will be fine. But the ones who actively participated in covering up the problems, she shrugged. They made their choice. And what about me? That's why I wanted to talk to you. I have 2 offers. She sat back down and looked me directly in the eyes. Option 1. I can arrange for you to return to Meridian Tech with a promotion to Senior Director of Project Integrity. Your job would be to make sure something like this never happens again. The salary would be significant. My heart skipped a beat. And your director? It was a position I had dreamed of, but never thought I'd reach so soon. And option 2? Option 2 is that you take the job at Metro General with my blessing and a letter of recommendation that will open doors for you anywhere in the industry. Plus, Meridian Tech will provide Metro General with technical consulting services at no charge for the first year of their new system development. You're giving me a choice between my dream job and helping me succeed somewhere else. I'm giving you a choice between what you want and what you believe in, because sometimes those aren't the same thing. I sat there for a long moment, thinking about everything that had happened. 3 days ago, I was a loyal employee who trusted my boss and believed in my company. Now, I was sitting across from the CEO, learning that everything I thought I knew was wrong. Can I ask you something? Of course. How long have you known about Thaddeus? I've suspected for over a year, but suspicion isn't proof. I needed someone on the inside who could document what was really happening, someone he trusted. You used me. I gave you an opportunity to show who you really are. The choice to take it was entirely yours. I thought about the sleepless nights, the stress, the fear of losing my career. All of it had been orchestrated. But then I thought about something else. I thought about the patients at Metro General who would never know how close they had come to having their lives put at risk. I thought about the doctors who would be able to trust their system because someone had cared enough to make sure it worked properly. I have an answer, I said. I'm listening. I'm taking the job at Metro General, but I want something in return. Margaret raised an eyebrow. What's that? I want you to make sure my teammates are protected. Oakley, Wren, Lennox, Indigo, they're good people who got caught up in something bigger than them. They deserve a chance to prove they can do better. Done. Anything else? I want to guarantee that Meridian Tech will never again deliver a system that puts people at risk. Not for any client, not for any amount of money, not for any deadline. You have my word. And I want Thaddeus to know that I know. I want him to understand that his actions have consequences. Margaret smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, it looked genuine. I think that can be arranged. We shook hands, and I left Meridian Tech for the second time in 3 days. But this time, I wasn't carrying a cardboard box filled with personal belongings. This time, I was carrying something much more valuable, the knowledge that I had done the right thing, even when it was hard. The next morning, my phone rang again, but this time, I knew who it was before I answered. Sage? Thaddeus's voice was different, smaller, desperate. Hello, Thaddeus. I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere? I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just give me 5 minutes. I can explain everything. I almost hung up, but something in his voice stopped me. This wasn't the confident, commanding man who had fired me 3 days ago. This was someone who was scared. 5 minutes, I said. The coffee shop on 5th Street. 1 hour. When I arrived, Thaddeus was already there, sitting in a corner booth with his head in his hands. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair was messy, and his eyes were red. I sat down across from him without saying anything. Sage, he said, looking up at me. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? For everything. For lying to you, for putting you in that position, for firing you when you were just trying to do the right thing. Why are you telling me this now? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Because I lost everything, my job, my reputation, my future, and it's all because I was too proud to listen to you. No, I said quietly. It's because you chose to lie instead of telling the truth. I was scared, he said. The pressure from the executives, the impossible deadline, the threat of losing the biggest contract in company history. I thought I could make it work. I thought I could fix the problems after we delivered. But you couldn't. No. And now Margaret Aldridge knows everything. She fired me this morning. She said I was a liability to the company's reputation. I felt a strange mix of sympathy and satisfaction. This was the man who had mentored me, who had taught me everything I knew about the business. But it was also the man who had been willing to put lives at risk to protect his own career. What do you want from me, Thaddeus? I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You did something I couldn't do. You chose integrity over loyalty, truth over comfort. It wasn't easy. I know, and I'm sorry I made it harder than it had to be. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This is a letter of recommendation. It explains your role in the Medicore project and your expertise in quality assurance. It should help you with future opportunities. I took the envelope but didn't open it. Sage, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you hate me? I thought about it for a long moment. Did I hate him? I had trusted him, looked up to him, wanted to be like him. He had betrayed that trust in the worst possible way. But sitting there, looking at this broken man who had lost everything because he couldn't find the courage to do what was right, I realized that I didn't hate him. I felt sorry for him. No, I said finally. I don't hate you, but I don't trust you either. He nodded. That's fair. I stood up to leave. Sage? I turned back. For what it's worth, you're going to be great at Metro General. They're lucky to have you. 3 months later, I was sitting in my new office at Metro General Hospital, looking over the plans for our new patient information system. My team of 6 developers was building something revolutionary, a system that would not only be secure and reliable, but would actually make doctors' lives easier and patients' care better. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Holloway. Board meeting went great. They approved the budget for Phase 2. Congratulations on building something amazing. I smiled and looked out my window at the city. Somewhere out there, Thaddeus Morrison was probably looking for a new job, trying to rebuild a career that he had destroyed with his own choices. Somewhere out there, patients were going to receive better care because someone had cared enough to build a system the right way. And somewhere out there, other employees were facing the same choice I had faced: do what's easy or do what's right. My phone rang. It was Oakley. "Sage, you're not going to believe this. Meridian Tech just offered me a promotion to lead developer on a new project. They said it was because I had demonstrated strong ethical judgment during a difficult situation." I laughed. "That's amazing. Are you going to take it?" "I already did. And guess what? The new project manager is someone who actually cares about building things right. No more cutting corners, no more ignoring problems. I'm proud of you, Oakley. I learned from the best. You showed all of us that there's a difference between being loyal to a person and being loyal to what's right." After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and thought about everything that had happened. I had lost a job I loved, but I had found something more important. I had found out who I really was. The truth is, we all face moments when we have to choose between what's comfortable and what's right, between following orders and following our conscience, between protecting ourselves and protecting others. I used to think that loyalty meant never questioning your boss, never rocking the boat, never causing problems. But I learned that real loyalty, the kind that matters, means being loyal to the truth even when it costs you everything. 6 months after I was fired for being too honest, I received an email that made me smile. It was from a doctor at Metro General. "Dear Mr. Williams," it read, "I wanted to thank you for the work you've done on our new patient system. Yesterday, I was able to access a patient's complete medical history in seconds during an emergency surgery. That quick access helped me save a life. I don't know you, but I wanted you to know that your work matters." I printed that email and put it on my wall, right next to my diploma and my Employee of the Month awards. Because sometimes, the most important recognition comes not from your boss or your company, but from knowing that you made a difference when it mattered most. The calls I got after being fired didn't just shock me. They changed everything. They turned what felt like the worst day of my life into the beginning of something better. Because sometimes, when you lose everything for doing the right thing, you discover that doing the right thing is all you really need. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to stay silent. If this story inspired you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell.